I leaned back in the leather chair of my office, the sunlight spilling across the polished oak desk in front of me. The fresh scent of lilies filled the room. The florist delivered them this morning, like they did every Monday. My blouse, soft ivory silk, whispered against my skin as I crossed my arms, taking in the quiet hum of the store below. It still felt surreal sometimes, seeing my name etched in gold on the glass door downstairs. Monroe and Company. Customers walked in and out, laughing, carrying their carefully wrapped purchases, never knowing that the woman upstairs had fought for every inch of this place. My phone buzzed on the desk. The screen lit up, and just one name froze me in place. Haley. My cousin. For a moment, I just stared at it, my chest tightening the way it used to years ago when she'd called to brag about something she'd just gotten. Usually something I wanted, too. I picked up the phone, not to answer, just to hold it. What did she want after all this time? A part of me almost laughed at the irony. The last time we spoke, she had something that was supposed to be mine. A gift, one my grandmother had said was meant for me. Haley had taken it anyway, smiling, acting as if I'd be fine without it. But I wasn't fine. That betrayal had carved a hole inside me, one I had to fill myself. And now she was calling me. Of all days, of all places, she had no idea she was about to step into the world I built. The memory came rushing back so vividly, it was like I'd stepped right into that summer evening years ago. I was 19, standing in my grandmother's living room, the air heavy with the smell of cinnamon tea and the faint creak of the old ceiling fan. My grandmother sat in her favorite chair, her silver hair coiled into a bun, her hands folded around a velvet box. "This is for you, Claire," she had said softly, her eyes shining. "It's not just jewelry. It's a start. Something to help you build a life." I remember reaching out, my heart thudding, ready to take it. And then Haley's laugh cut through the room like glass. "Are you sure about that, Grandma?" she'd asked, stepping closer, her blonde hair bouncing in perfect waves. "I mean, I've been helping you with the store every weekend. Shouldn't this go to the one who's actually here?" My breath had caught. Haley was always the golden one, the pretty, confident cousin everyone adored. I was quieter, the girl who stayed up late sketching designs in her notebook, the one who dreamed more than she spoke. But that night, my grandmother hesitated, just for a second, and Haley saw it. Within minutes, the box was in her hands. She squealed, hugged Grandma, and thanked her a dozen times. I stood frozen, the lump in my throat so big it hurt to swallow. "Claire, you'll find your own way," Grandma had said, trying to comfort me. This will be good for Haley." I nodded, even smiled, but my hands were shaking. Inside, I felt hollow. That night, I sat on the porch staring at the stars until the sky turned pale. My notebook lay open in my lap, but I couldn't draw. All I could hear was Haley's laughter echoing in my ears. I made my decision then. If no one was going to give me a start, I'd make my own. I packed my bags the next morning, left a note for Grandma, and got on the earliest bus out of town. My heart ached, but my mind was clear. I was done waiting for someone else to choose me. That was the last time I saw Haley until today. Those first few months were brutal. I rented a tiny apartment above a bakery in downtown Seattle. One room, creaky floors, and a window that barely opened. The smell of fresh bread every morning was the only luxury I had. I worked 2 jobs, mornings at a coffee shop, nights at a small boutique that sold secondhand clothes. I barely slept, but I kept a journal where I sketched ideas, store layouts, product displays, even names for a business I didn't have yet. People underestimated me back then. The boutique's owner, Linda, didn't. Linda was in her 50s, sharp-tongued but kind, and she noticed everything. "You've got an eye for this," she said one night as I rearranged the front window display. "Customers are stopping because of the way you set this up. You ever think about running your own place?" I almost laughed. I barely had enough money for groceries. But Linda didn't just talk. She taught me. She showed me how to track inventory, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to talk to customers in a way that made them feel seen. I soaked up everything, staying late to ask questions, scribbling notes in the margins of my journal. It wasn't glamorous. I cried into my pillow some nights, wondering if I'd made a mistake leaving home. But every paycheck I put a little away. By the time I turned 22, I had saved enough for a down payment on a tiny retail space, nothing fancy, just a corner shop with peeling paint and a flickering light over the door. I painted those walls myself. I polished the floors, built shelves out of scrap wood, and hung my grandmother's old lace curtains in the window, the only thing I had left from her. The day I opened my store, just a handful of secondhand clothes and handmade jewelry, I stood behind the counter with shaking hands. And someone walked in and bought something. It wasn't much, just a scarf, but I nearly cried when I rang it up. From there, it was slow, steady growth. Word spread. People liked the store, like me. I started sourcing better pieces, working with local designers, adding unique items no one else carried. 1 year later, I turned a profit. 2 years later, I expanded. I never told Haley or anyone back home how well things were going. On social media, I posted generic photos, coffee cups, city skylines, nothing that hinted at success. I didn't want them to know. This was mine. Every late night, every scraped knuckle from building shelves, every dollar I saved, it all belonged to me. And by the time I opened Monroe and Company, my flagship store, I wasn't the girl who'd stood frozen while her cousin smiled and took what was hers. I was the woman who'd built something bigger than that gift could have ever been. The knock on my office door was soft, hesitant. "Come in," I called, my voice calm even though my pulse jumped. The door opened slowly, and there she was, Haley. She looked almost the same, except a little more tired around the eyes. She wore a pastel blazer and heels that clicked nervously against the hardwood floor as she stepped inside. "Claire," she said, her voice unsure. I stood, smoothing my blouse, and smiled politely. "Haley, it's been a while." Her gaze swept the room, taking in the framed photos on the wall, the polished furniture, the fresh flowers on my desk. Her eyes landed on the gold plaque behind me. Claire Monroe, owner and creative director. She blinked, then blinked again, as if she needed to be sure. "This is yours?" she asked slowly. "Yes," I said simply. She took a step forward, her mouth opening and closing like she wasn't sure what to say. "This is Monroe and Company," she said, almost to herself. "I've read about this place. People talk about it back home." I had no idea. I just nodded, letting her take it all in. The silence stretched. I could feel her piecing things together. All the years I'd been quiet, all the vague updates I'd given our family. Finally, she sat down across from me. "Claire, I didn't come here to, well, this wasn't what I expected." I leaned against my desk, crossing my arms. "What did you expect?" Her shoulders slumped. "Honestly, I thought you'd be struggling. I thought maybe you'd need help." I almost laughed at that, but I didn't. Instead, I tilted my head. "You mean the way I needed help when Grandma's gift was taken from me?" Her face flushed. "Claire, I was young. I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," I said softly. "You hurt me, Haley. You made me feel like I wasn't worth investing in. Like I wasn't the kind of girl who could make something of herself." She looked down at her hands. For once, she didn't have a perfect comeback. I walked to the window and looked out at the bustling street below, then back at her. "You know what's funny?" I said, my voice even. "That night when you took that gift, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because it forced me to stop waiting for someone else to choose me. I chose myself." Haley's eyes were glassy now. "Claire, I'm sorry. Things haven't been easy for me either. The gift, it didn't work out. The business I tried to start failed. I lost everything. That's why I'm here." I studied her for a moment. The proud cousin who once strutted through life now sat across from me, small and humbled. For a second, I let myself remember the sting, the hollow feeling in my chest that night years ago. And then I smiled, not with bitterness, but with something deeper. "You came to the right place," I said finally, straightening. "Because this is where I rebuilt my life. And maybe this is where you start rebuilding yours." Her head lifted, surprise flickering in her eyes. "You'd help me?" I nodded once. On my terms. The room went quiet again, but this time the silence felt different, like the air just before a storm breaks. This was my moment. I took my seat behind the desk, folding my hands, letting the weight of the moment settle. Haley, I said, my tone firm but calm. I will help you, but not the way you're used to being helped. She sat straighter, clearly unsure what I meant. You want to get back on your feet? Fine, I continued. But you're going to work for it. Literally. You'll start downstairs, part-time. Inventory, customer service, cleaning displays, whatever needs doing. Her jaw dropped slightly. You want me to work here? As staff? Yes, I said evenly. Not as my cousin. As an employee. You'll clock in like everyone else, follow the rules, and earn your paycheck. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. I could see the pride battling inside her, but she didn't say no. There's more, I added. Her brows lifted. You will pay back what you can little by little for that gift you took. I don't need the money. It's about the principle. And you'll meet with a financial advisor I know. They'll help you learn how to manage your money this time so you don't repeat the same mistakes. Haley swallowed hard. And I said, softening my tone just slightly, you'll stop competing with me. No more backhanded comments, no more trying to one-up me. If you're here, you're part of a team. That means celebrating other people's wins, not resenting them. For a long moment, she just sat there, silent. Then she nodded slowly. You're serious? I am, I said. Because this isn't about revenge, Haley. I don't want you to fail. I want you to grow. But I won't let you drag me back into the past to do it. Something shifted in her expression then. The defensiveness faded, replaced by something I hadn't seen in years, humility. I'll do it, she said quietly. If you'll give me the chance, I'll do it. I studied her for another beat, then stood and extended my hand. Welcome to Monroe and Company, Haley. She looked at my hand, then reached out and shook it. And just like that, the balance of power between us changed forever. For the first time, I felt the past losing its grip on me. 3 months later, I stood at the edge of the sales floor, arms crossed, watching Haley carefully fold a stack of sweaters. She was focused, quieter than I ever remembered her being. She greeted customers with a smile that didn't look forced, and when a little girl dropped a bracelet, Haley bent down, picked it up, and tied it back on her wrist with surprising gentleness. It hadn't been easy at first. She'd struggled those first few weeks. The long hours, the humility of taking direction from other employees, some younger than her. But she stuck with it. And slowly, I started to see her change. One evening, as we locked up the store together, she turned to me and said, I used to think getting something handed to me was the same as earning it. I was wrong. This feels different. This feels good. I smiled, hearing the honesty in her voice. Later that night, I sat alone in my office. On the shelf behind my desk sat my grandmother's lace curtains, the ones I'd carried from that first tiny shop to every location since. I reached out and touched the fabric, remembering her voice that night years ago. You'll find your own way. She had been right. I had found my own way, and somehow, in doing so, I'd helped Haley find hers too. The past didn't hurt the way it used to. It had shaped me, sharpened me, pushed me toward the life I was meant to build. I stood, walked to the front window, and looked out at the glowing sign that read Monroe and Company. This was mine, every inch of it. And now, it wasn't just my victory, it was my story. I thought of the girl I used to be, standing frozen in my grandmother's living room, watching the gift slip away. Then I smiled, a calm, satisfied smile that came from deep inside. My cousin took my gift, I whispered to the empty store. But that gift led me here. And now, I glanced at the sign one last time. Now I own the store,